Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Faithless Forrest.
And I'm Larry Rhodes, and we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, we can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and for people curious about living life free of supernatural beliefs. Today's topic is more deconversion stories, and we hope to have a special call and guest.
All right, well, we go over a few announcements. We suggest you get a pen and a paper because later we'll be giving you our email address for the show. All right.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun meetup, often at a bar or eatery. Sometimes we even do karaoke. Tonight's meetup is Barley's for happy hour, after the show for food, drink, and conversation. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table to be able to see where we are. And as Matt Dillahunty at the Atheist Experience always says, everyone is welcome to visit our happy hour for food, drink, and conversation, but if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't.
Well, the monthly activities of the Rationalists of East Tennessee are like this. The first and third Sunday mornings are usually lectures with lively roundtable discussions. The second Sunday is book club, and the fourth Sunday is a reflections gathering. It's often like a potluck at a member's home.
This month's reflection meeting will get together as it's a seasonal one. How do non-believers celebrate holy days or holidays, or do they? What is a freethinker to do as we enter the holiday season? What is the range of reactions to the numerous religious holidays recognized by our federal government? Exactly what, when, how, and why do they celebrate? Most of us are former Christians and are familiar with Christian holidays and traditions, many of which we have morphed into more totally secular, commercialized, or corrupted versions of the original purposes. Do most non-believers just go along to get along and passively accept these religious remnants still being forced down society's throats? Or should we rebel and refuse to be co-opted by others' insincere observations? How do we spend work-free time? And how have we created traditions of our own families, for our own families? Or do we take the time to travel abroad or visit relatives?
I assume that we'll also talk about how we deal with that other supernatural myth. Santa
Claus.
and flying reindeers. Don't forget the flying reindeers.
Mm-hmm. And the elves that make toys and Christmas stuff.
Yep.
Visit our website for additional details about the two groups, including times and locations and where we meet.
All right.
Now, on to In the News.
In the news. Well, the holiday season is upon us, and watch out for Christian love and charity if you say happy holidays.
Yep, we would like to remind any Christians watching that the time spent with family and friends at fall harvest festivals and decorating our homes with lights during the day with the shortest light of the year are times of joy to many people of the Northern Hemisphere and have been since before men wrote the Holy Bible.
The holy books in general.
Right.
Well, remember, orbital mechanics is the real reason for the season. And that story about virgin births, well, last year the American atheists at Lincoln Tunnel Billboard dared to tell the truth.
You can celebrate the seasons free of myths and send secular cards. You can download card designs for free with spectacular Hubble Space Telescope images if you like.
Want me to read that website?
Sure.
It's hubblesite.org/gallery/holiday. And you can print those things off on your printer, and if you want even better things, better quality, the office supply places will print them for you on glossy paper with their high quality copy machines, printing machines.
True.
If space images and making cards is not for you, even the local card shops will have some secular cards, often, animals in trees full of snow, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And finally, the Freedom from Religion organization, or RF, I nearly mangled that. They have many solstice cards. That's what they like to refer to them. And of course, the one I really like, it says reasons greetings.
Right. And what is the reason for the season? Axial tilt.
Axial tilt.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, in the news.
We've hit the in the news.
We've got another. Well, we're going to talk about that later.
That'll be the mid-program.
Okay.
We're hoping that we'll get a special call-in today as we talk about deconversion stories. But we'll if the call doesn't show up, we'll talk around it ourselves.
We've got plenty of material. For sure.
So I've always been an atheist, but upon joining the Rationalists of East Tennessee some years ago, I discovered that I am a minority within a minority. Most of the members had been believers at one time, and I found it interesting to hear their stories about losing faith.
Right. That's one of the things that kind of gets me about people we talk to, religious people or theists. They don't seem to think that we understand the Christian story, and that they have to tell it to us in length, when most of us came from Christianity, and indeed lost a lot of our faith by actually reading the Bible with a critical mind. We're taking calls now at the number on the screen, 215-2288, in the 865 area code. There's about a 7-second delay in the broadcast, so once you call, please mute your television and listen to us over the phone, or we'll all be confused.
All right. Well, we hope some viewers will call in with our deconversion story. We have a special call-in we're hoping to get as well. Larry, why do we call it deconversion?
Well, most people are born tabula rasa, a clean slate. They have some instincts, like most babies do of all species, that kick in, like the sucking instinct, the things that they know as of just being born.
I believe clutching is kind of instinctive,
and actually
almost reflexive.
Closing your mouth and opening your eyes if you're underwater. They found that babies, you put them underwater and they go into this mode where they hold their breath, and they open their eyes and they look around. But the thing about it is, concepts like religions and gods and saviors and sin is all imprinted on them after they are born and able to understand language. Then they start asking questions. Where did that come from? Where did everything come from? And that's when the parents generally start telling them about God and sin, and there's the need for a savior, and that's when they're converted to religion,
to Christianity,
to Christianity or Islam or Hinduism or whatever society offers to that particular child at that particular time. And sometimes there are aberrant religions as well. But when you deconvert, you get away from that. You go back to the we call it a skeptical or rational mindset, where you find that claims, particularly fantastic claims, need very, very good reasons to believe those claims. And claim that a person came back from the dead after 3 days, being dead for 3 days.
And then conveniently, apparently, disappeared into the sky.
Into the sky. That's a pretty high claim. Talking snakes, talking donkeys are pretty good claims. Splitting of a sea and allowing people to go through and then closing it again after other people try to chase them through. Those are fantastic claims which require fantastic evidence, which has not been forthcoming. And that's how most of us came to deconvert to atheism or agnosticism or just free-thinking, skeptical rationalists, humanists.
All right. So I grew up non-theist, and for me, I remember when my parents were explaining to me this Santa Claus myth and how other children, actually might believe it. And I think they were doing two things. They were warning me that it was just pretend, but they were also warning me that it might be a little cruel to pop the bubble of believers. They didn't use such phrases as pop the bubble. I'm talking as an adult.
I have a cartoon like that. This cartoon, the child has like 4 balloons. 3 of them are laying on the ground popped. And they have names like Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, and I forget the third, Easter Bunny. Easter Bunny.
Okay.
And there's a priest standing there and says, "Now don't let anybody pop this last one," which had God on it.
All right.
But anyway, moving right along.
Did you have something next?
Yes, I wanted to talk about my digital Freethought website, which has lots of leaving religion links on it. If you go to digitalfreethought.com, my site, there are more resources on leaving religion. I have links that will direct you to pages for leaving Christianity, leaving Islam, leaving Hinduism, and several others. Just go under leaving religion. It's one of the top options. If you go to the next slide, this is a particularly good place to go, and it's positiveatheism.org, and this is the site where they collect deconversion stories. I have a deconversion story since I was raised Christian, and a lot of people go into this page, sign in, and put their deconversion stories on there. So you can imagine there's several hundred, if not 1,000 or more. And if you enjoy reading those, or if you feel like you may be experiencing one or in the middle of one, you might like to see how other people deal with this type of time, this time in their life.
Yeah, I can imagine that for many people it's going to be a thing where they have questions that can't be answered. They may conclude that, well, man, I don't believe this, maybe the Christian story, but then they go looking for other stories.
That happens to a lot of people. Just because they lose faith in their particular religion doesn't mean that they've lost faith in every religion or God itself. A lot of people will eventually go visit these other religions and decide that they're just as full of fantastic stories as the one they left, but still will retain a common belief in a supernatural being that started the universe, and they are called deists. These deists do not believe that the God, if he exists, actually interferes in their lives or interacts in their lives at all. Doesn't answer prayers, doesn't show up and help them find their car keys, that type of thing. And
when you say God, this is a God with a lowercase g. It's not uppercase G God, meaning Jehovah. Mm-hmm. It's not. I always do it. The God of Islam just escapes me every time.
Mm-hmm. Of Islam?
Yeah.
Allah.
It's not Allah.
It's not Allah?
Yeah, it's none of those Egyptian gods.
Muhammad?
Not
the prophet.
Yeah, he's the prophet. So when deists talk about God, they kind of really mean a rule maker who maybe started it all. Many deists, some of the founders of our nation who were deists, they'd have been very explicit and said that, this deity doesn't interfere with our lives. He started it out, but that's it. There's a nice expose by Thomas Paine on what is deism and his understanding of it. And this is interesting because it's written from the point of view of the very late 1700s, early 1800s, when our nation, we were probably on our second president at the time that was written. George Washington had retired to Mount Vernon.
And the thing about it, a lot of people, even if they don't think that the founding fathers were deists, a lot of people are. A lot of people from that era, even though in their writings they may mention a creator God or whatever, that doesn't mean that they hold with the teachings of Christianity or any of the tenets of it. They may not even hold with the concept of sin. There are some people that think, deists, who think that God may have blown himself up in the creation of the universe and it no longer exists. Or
the universe is just coasting along.
Yeah, that's right.
There's no one at the wheel.
Right. But that would be an atheist too, because they believe that God does not exist. He may have existed, but he doesn't exist now.
Oh. Yeah, that's a new thought to me. I had never thought about that situation where someone would say that we are now godless, but had assumed that maybe we had one time been. Mm-hmm. Well, of course, for people who are leaving faith, there's that whole
coming out of the closet thing.
Yep. Well, if to, and it must happen successively. Mm-hmm. For me, in a sense, I've never been in the closet, but in many stretches of my life, there was little or no reason to talk about religion, mm-hmm. and in a sense, then I was not out because there was no out to go to. I do remember having the occasional conversation in grade school around the holidays, where I explained I didn't believe in any in a supernatural birth, Jesus, and a resurrection. Although I was still fond of the Santa Claus image, because getting and receiving presents is a fun thing to do. And I remember in probably 4th grade being told by someone who is still a friend how, well, I couldn't celebrate Christmas then because, that was for Christians.
Well, you could, if you're only going to celebrate Christmas and you're a Christian, that's fine, no problem. But you shouldn't blame other people who also want to follow the what do you call it,
the secular holidays?
The secular holidays, sure, of the solstice, the coming of the sun again, the rising of the sun after the 3rd day of the darkness. The sun generally stops moving south on the 21st, and it stays basically in the same position as it comes up from the 21st to the 24th, and then on the 25th, it starts coming back up north again. That's what they really celebrated. I mean, they've been celebrating that for millennia. It means that the coming of summer is on its way, and we didn't keep going darker and darker and darker, never to come back again.
The sun was not dying. The sun was going to be reborn, the S-U-N.
Right.
All right. So, like I say, I was never exactly in the closet. What was it like for you?
Well, I spent several decades of my life in the closet. The first 2 decades of my life, I was a Christian. I believed in Christian doctrine. I believed in that God and Jesus were real, that sin was real, that I needed a Redeemer, that I needed a Savior. However, if there's no God, that you cannot trespass against Him. In other words, there's no sin. Sin is a concept that is sold to you by the church so that they can then sell you the cure.
And selling is the important part of it, because there's money involved in all of this.
Right. Dan Barker mentioned that in his Losing Faith in Faith, saying, would you buy a bandage from a person who cut you in order to sell you a bandage? That's what the church does.
All right. So, in what environment might you have first come out?
Well, during college, when I became an atheist through study and understanding of the different types of religions and claims out there that cannot be substantiated, I never really saw much need to come out. People were religious, that's fine, who cares? I'm not religious. I find living in the Bible Belt, though, that some people take a dim view of you being an atheist. So at family gatherings, or I'd go to church with some friends, or go to a wedding or a funeral. So when they bowed their head for prayers, I would usually do the same, mostly out of respect for the people that was there. The thing about it is, when several things happened right about the same time. In 2001, the religious folk, Muslims, crazy Muslim radicals, flew planes into the building. It was a faith-based initiative. It was made on the face of religion. It's not that they did it and they happened to be Islamic. Islam told them to kill infidels.
Their interpretation of Islam told them to kill infidels.
Well, it says so in the book, kill infidels.
It says so in the Christian Bible as well, that non-believers.
Well, it puts more, what do you call it? Steps.
Emphasis?
No, what's the word? Conditions on it. In the Bible, it says if somebody tries to take you away from Christianity and have you come to worship another god, then your hand should be the first upon them to kill them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't usually just come out and say kill the infidel. However, about that same time, President Bush passed his real faith-based initiatives, taking my tax dollars and giving them to churches. And he may call it charity, may call it faith-based initiative. All I know is that, like Pat Robertson got like $3 million when the hurricane hit New Orleans, because his charity was one of the ones listed on the faith-based initiatives as getting money to help out problem areas like that. No.
So what we had here is redistribution of wealth from all Americans into the hands of religious people,
religious leaders, and
so that they could go out and maybe do things to help people, but then they're kind of basking in the credit for it when they didn't earn that.
Right. Not only that, and I don't really have a problem if they take all the money and they help. and they do the thing. But that's not usually what happens. I mean, they do some work. They have to because of the federal auditors. But a lot of times they'll take and spend some money on it, take some money and put it in their own programs or their own pockets. And even if they don't, they always make sure that they have some proselytization going on. You've got to sit down and listen to a sermon before you get your meal. You've got to attend their services before they'll give you clothing, you know, type of things like this. Yeah. And many of these faith-based initiatives are...
You're holding people hostage in their time of need to proselytization.
Yeah, and literally, too, because some of these programs are prison-based.
Yeah.
So they literally cannot leave.
All right. Well, we should remind people that the phone number is on the screen. We'd like to hear about your deconversion stories. Mm-hmm. If you're a non-believer, or perhaps if you've changed faith, you might want to give us a call and tell us about that.
Phone lines are open, 215-2288.
All right. We were talking about different resources. Was there another resource to talk about there? Well, I guess you do have advice here for coming out of the closet.
Right.
There's the whole issue of, with family versus work and so on.
Right.
How do you want to maybe start that?
Well, let me just read a few paragraphs of it. If you have come to the decision that you just cannot believe in God anymore, or that religion pushes, or what religion pushes as truth no longer represents actual truth, then you have to come to another decision, whether or not you're going to let your friends, families, and or co-workers know that you no longer believe. Some people come out of the closet because they can no longer live a lie and refuse to be dishonest with themselves and their loved ones any longer. Or sometimes they come out because they believe that to stay in the closet would just provide support for and legitimize the religious dogmas that they see ruining the ideals of the country they love. Also, they may see that some preachers, pastors, priests, etc., are using religion to take advantage of people around them, especially children and the elderly and infirm. They feel that they must come out and speak out against supernatural belief in order to delegitimize these charlatans.
Well, Larry, we've got a call here. Why don't you push the button and ask them?
Okay. Welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have a name or nickname?
Johnny.
Hello. Was that Johnny?
Yeah.
Great, okay. Johnny. I'm Faithless. This is Larry.
Welcome to the show.
And please ask us a question or give us a comment. Ooh. All right. Well, Johnny, we seem to have lost you.
Okay. Well,
if you'd like to try calling again, we'd like to hear your question or comment.
I wonder if the call screener may have taken a subject down or a comment that he had out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, so there's that whole issue of, all right, we now know why you're motivated. And in fact, I was motivated to participate in the Rationalists of East Tennessee because of the same events that made you want to be more visible as well. Mm-hmm. That the attack on our nation,
the faith-based initiatives,
the faith-based attack, as well, from the external attack, as well as I really did feel that George Bush's faith-based initiatives were an attack on our freedoms. That that's like establishing a church.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing about it is he got around the letter of the law because the Constitution says that Congress shall make no law establishing a religion like he did, but he did it by presidential decree. He just sat down and wrote the decree and made it a law, bypassing Congress altogether.
Yeah. I know that there's been court challenges to that, and I must say that the reasoning that prevailed. All right, we've got another call again.
Okay. Welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have a name or nickname, please?
Gary.
Gary.
Hello, Gary.
Do you have a comment or question?
Yeah, I just want to say that I think your show's doing great things for us out there.
No, thank you. Appreciate that. Have you been watching along?
Yeah, I've been catching it, for a few weeks in a row. I just do have one question about the shirt that you're wearing.
Larry's shirt?
I'm assuming you're talking about Forrest's shirt.
Nothing fails like prayer?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just wondering, if it fails, what about how it helps people? I mean, if it helps a person in any way, is it really failing?
Well, in other words, perhaps there's a placebo effect. Is that maybe what you're saying?
Well, placebo or not, I mean, if it works, it works.
Well, does it work? That's the statement that he's saying. And nothing fails like prayer.
The nature of this shirt is the assertion that nothing fails like prayer, because the prayers that are being answered are really things that are happening naturally or by human action. If there really was a deity out there who is maybe curing cancer now and then, do you think there might be a deity who cures cancer?
Well, no, I'm not specifically talking about prayer in a religious sense, but the idea of prayer itself.
Uh-huh. Well,
I mean, even like meditation could be considered prayer, and if meditation helps someone in any way, whether it's documented, medical or not.
Well, I would say we need to talk semantics then, because if I wouldn't call meditation prayer, I'd call meditation maybe a relaxation technique. Whereas prayer is you're appealing to a supernatural deity to change how events in the world are happening to bend to your will, in a sense.
One of the things that gets me about prayer, and my main problem with prayer,
the physiological effect of prayer, not necessarily praying to a deity, but the physiological effect of prayer.
Okay. Well, there's that, but they could always just meditate and call it meditation. The problem I have with prayer is that a lot of times, many times, people will pray rather than actually doing good work.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is a cop-out. When they say, well, my husband's in the hospital, and he would really like to get some visitors. Well, I can't come, but I'll pray for him. And that's it. That absolves them of all blame. They can do whatever they want then.
Yeah. In other words, in the real world where there may be people should feel an obligation to help, prayer is the very least you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, prayer can evoke thought, and thoughts are always good things.
Well, they're good thoughts and bad thoughts.
Yeah, but
we don't hold people accountable for what they think. We hold them accountable for their actions.
Yeah, and if if by prayer we really mean you're appealing to a deity to intervene, then good thoughts aside, that it's like we're wasting our time and fooling ourselves when we should be doing real things with real hands. Mm-hmm. All right.
But I mean, to say that stepping aside for a moment and taking a moment to pause and think about a person and think about how their life could be better because they've, espoused to you their troubles. I mean, essentially that's prayer, and I don't think that there's anything negating about responsibilities with that.
No, I don't think that's prayer, and in fact, I think you'd be better off picking up your cell phone, giving that person a call, and say, "Hey there, how are things going today?"
Mm-hmm. Right, but I mean, if that person's laying in a hospital bed, you can't necessarily just give them a call. So you take a moment during your day and you think about them and you hope for them that
that's fine.
Better. That's prayer.
I don't have a problem with that as long as you're not absolving yourself of responsibility by doing something like that.
Yeah, if you feel that you've really done something for that person, you really haven't. Because, I mean, they're someone who's in a hospital bed, they don't know that you've done that, and knowing is
but they don't have to know that you've done that.
Nothing.
They don't have to know that you've done that.
Okay.
All right. Well, we would like to suggest that you make a prayer, though, on behalf of all of the men and women who have served in our nation's armed services. You're a patriot, aren't you?
Well, we do that with Veterans Day.
Uh-huh. Well, what we'd like to suggest...
I spend my own time to reflect on them. Essentially, that's prayer, and I don't think that does any harm to me or anybody else.
No, mainly what we do is we honor those who are serving and have served. That's fine.
Well, and those memorial events remind us, we get involved in our day-to-day lives, and the calendar event reminds us that, there are people who have risked life and limb on behalf of our nation, and we need to thank them in person. I often, when I see especially veterans of World War II with those hats that'll say U.S. Enterprise or some other battleship, I'll ask them about their service and express real interest in their real life. All right.
Do you go home and ponder their experiences?
I'm a fan of history, and I think every time we get a chance to live vicariously, either by reading about or talking to a person who's experienced an interesting historical event, that makes us a more experienced person. It enlarges our lives.
A more connected person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you for your call.
Yeah.
Can I ask you one other thing? Would you agree that, like, if you say something, you should prove it?
Well, yeah, of course we generally say that. That's
within our means or ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're going to say that nothing feels like prayer, shouldn't you be able to prove it?
I think you can prove it as much as you can prove the prayer works.
Yeah.
So
we generally issue the prayer challenge at this point, and we ask you to pray that all the men and women of the armed services who've lost limbs will have those limbs restored. That's a prayer worth reaching for.
Honestly, I'll sit here on my couch every day and think about it. I hope that they would be able to regenerate limbs for themselves.
All right. Well, we wish that would happen. We'd like to be wrong on that.
Mm-hmm.
But
that would be good proof that God exists if He would do something like that.
That would be proof. But you might notice.
I don't believe God exists. I do want to make that clear.
God never heals.
I want to be clear. I do not believe in God at all.
Okay. All right. But to all those who are listening, who are thinking about what prayer might do, God never heals amputees. It just doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Or anything else that's visible.
Yeah. All right. Well, Gary, thanks for calling. Are you local in East Tennessee, by the way?
I am.
All right.
Come down to the
happy hour. Sit by a hospital bed and held somebody's hand as they died. I mean, if it makes them feel better and helps them.
But that's not prayer. That's doing things in the real world.
Right.
So, Gary, let's say thank you. We hope we can get some other people to call in and share some deconversion stories with us.
Okay.
Thank you for giving me the time.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
You want to get into the mid-program?
Yeah. Why don't we do our mid-program break? I want to talk about our sponsors in case you're just tuning in. This is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by those organizations and by individual contributions. Shows are most every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern on community access television. You can also see this program streaming live at ctvknox.org. And so you can tell your friends who are out of town about this. You can send us feedback at the email address freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. But don't wait, this is a call-in show. We're live here. It's November 22nd, and you can call in on the number on your screen. All right, well, we have a kind of a special thing in the news today. We're going to announce a new initiative where atheists are going to go do good things for humans, one another, because nothing fails like prayer. We're announcing the ASK and RET blood drive. So Jonas has come to talk to me, and as you can tell from his shirt, Jonas is an avid blood donator. I donate blood as well. I often donate whole blood. But Jonas, I'm supposed to ask you about platelet pheresis. I may have mangled that word.
Oh, pheresis.
Pheresis, all right. So tell us about blood platelet pheresis. What's that all about?
Okay, well, let me just come in. It's good to be here on camera occasionally. I'm usually outside answering the phone when our viewers call in. Okay, our blood is a vital component of our body and is essential to the maintenance of life. Without oxygen carried by blood, consciousness would cease in a few moments, followed by death. Blood carries nutrition to the cells, waste products away, and carries components to fight disease, cools the body, and crucially, it has a mechanism to stop leaks. Modern medical science has made great progress in treating trauma and disease, but many therapies would not work safely without the availability of blood and blood products.
Well, Jonas, we're getting signaled that there's a call here, and I'm thinking Larry's wanting us to take it. So here we go. Well, welcome to Freethought Forum. Please give us a name or a nickname.
I'm just going to call myself Ann.
Hello, Ann. Thank you for calling. Do you have a question or a comment for us today?
I just listened to the last caller, and I thought it was time to give a different opinion.
Okay.
I saw your T-shirt. I mean, I was just passing through the channels, and I thought to myself, oh, my goodness, that's exactly how I feel.
Okay, well, in fact, it's funny you say, oh my goodness. Of course, many of us who are non-believers will often use the phrase ever so slightly different. I try to say, oh my Zeus, but I'll confess I don't always remember that.
Oh, well.
So this is the first time you've seen our show? You're just tuning through the channels and saw us?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, we're here every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
From 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And we're basically members of two groups, the Atheist Society of Knoxville, which is sort of a meetup group. The Atheist Society generally meets at a bar or a restaurant. Sometimes we have movie night, once in a while karaoke. And the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Jonas, could you summarize the Rationalists briefly for Ann?
Oh, well, let's see. The Rationalists, again, is a little more structured group. We meet typically 4 times a month. First and third Sundays, we have a program, often an invited speaker, sometimes an internal speaker. We meet at
roundtable discussion. We don't just get talked to. We also talk back.
Oh yes. When I say a speaker, I mean the speaker starts off talking, but then it generally becomes something that everyone gets involved in. Now, those are at Pellissippi State Community College in the cafeteria annex. And then there's a book club and a social discussion group that meets on the fourth Sundays.
Fourth Sunday. This month's discussion group is, I'm going to have to paraphrase, is what do non-believers do during the holidays? As one of our members once said,
we sit back and we keep our mouths shut.
Yeah. Well,
I know, because I so dread this time of year, because you have to pretend, you have to put on your Christian cap, and it's just it's a struggle. It's an internal struggle that I never ever feel comfortable with. And you can't say anything because, oh my goodness, what would that cause?
You would be like
dinner.
You would be like Bill O'Reilly says. You'd be conducting a war on Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm pretty educated in religion. I grew up. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. Until I was to the age where I could say, I don't believe this and I'm not going, which was about the age of 14. And by that time, my mother had lost faith in it too, because of all of the internal things that go on inside of every religion that is just so amazing. It's just man-made. That's all it is. And it's who runs this and who runs that. And it's ridiculous. And after I got up to an older age, I decided to investigate some other religions. I tried Baptist. I tried Catholicism, Greek Orthodox. And they're all exactly the same. It's just politics inside of one church, and everybody else who's not up, they're not the top dogs, then you just go and you try to glean some intelligence out of perhaps what they're trying to convey Bible-wise. But most of the time, you don't really learn anything about the Bible. And if that's what you're seeking, why aren't they providing it? And here's my question. Everything that I have learned from the Bible tells me that God, Jehovah, or whatever name you want to call him, got into some kind of an ego contest with an angel that he created, Lucifer, and decided to have this big game. Oh, well, let's see. Lucifer said that he could turn man against him, and so then the other angel, Michael, decided to become his, biggest supporter. And if this is what it all boils down to, everything that I know of in existence, recorded existence, it's ridiculous. All of the terrible atrocities and wars that have gone on in the name of God, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
And that's part of why we have our show here. We want to make sure that the opinion about Christianity is not above criticism and is not something that you just have to accept, that voice is heard. All right.
What I would like for you to do again as I hang up, please give the information again or at the end of your show. And don't, forget the computer stuff. I wouldn't have a computer if you paid me to have it.
All right. I think we have a phone number at the end where you can call in and leave us a voicemail as well. So that will work for you. All
okay.
Right? Well, Ann?
All right. Well, I hope that more people call in and that they're not afraid to even voice their real feelings to themselves, and we have an actual intelligent discussion.
And
not just people that say, well, I believe in this, I believe in that. Well, that's fine, and I believe, that maybe this isn't right, and it deserves being discussed.
Well, thank you for saying so out loud.
Okay.
All right.
And call back right after the show ends. I'll stay around for a couple of minutes and can answer any further questions.
Yeah, that's true. Great.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, we were talking about blood donation because we want to understand the importance of it, as well as announce the fact that the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee now have an account with Medic. Can you maybe tell us a little about Medic?
Oh, yes. The Medic Regional Blood Center was created to assure that blood products are available through hospitals to the residents of East Tennessee and Southeast Kentucky when they're needed. Medic collects blood from healthy volunteers 17 years or older and weighing at least 110 pounds. You think we fit that?
Yeah, I haven't had to worry about that limit in a while.
Oh, with the Kentucky-Tennessee football game coming up this weekend, I should mention there's a contest each year at this time to see which side of the football fans from Kentucky and Tennessee can donate the most blood.
All right. So, what about the rest of the year? Who might donate then?
Oh, there's a problem to be overcome, especially during holidays and bad weather. Their shortages can really develop. Though 60% of adults are eligible to donate blood, only 5% actually do. And most of these, there are more women than men. So the blood needs of the entire population, children and adults, are provided by the generosity of this small group. We are the 5%.
We are the 5%. So, and when you mention blood products, what do you mean by blood products?
Okay. Most volunteers, like you, donate whole blood. It's a process which takes about 10 to 12 minutes after screening. After testing and treatment, the blood not used immediately is stored for a short while and used when needed. But some of the blood is separated into components which can be used on different patients.
Okay, different components. They must have different purposes. What are these components?
Yes. Blood has three main components for discussion here. Red blood cells, plasma, and platelets, each serving a vital function and having a different shelf life. It's not surprising that the technology has been developed to accept only one of these components from the donor without removing the other. The shelf lives of these components are, like red blood cells, 42 days, plasma 1 year, but platelets only 7 days. For platelets, it is important to have a continuous supply of donors to meet the needs of the patient.
And platelets, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the part that does the clotting.
Yes. And well, it initiates.
It's an important part of the clotting process, and probably that's why it's amongst the most fragile. All right. So how often can volunteers donate blood?
Well, it depends on how long it takes a component to be replaced by the donor's body. Red blood cells take the longest, so donors may donate every 4 weeks. Plasma can be donated every month, but platelet donors may donate every 7 days up to 24 times a year.
Okay.
Or even give a double amount at one time, because platelets have a life in your body of only 7 days, and so the body makes a lot of these.
And I think you misspoke. You said you can donate every 4 weeks, but I think it's 56 days, which is close to about 2 months. I think it's a few days
I
shy of.
think I said 8 weeks.
Yeah. And I think the actual number is 56 days.
Okay, yeah.
Because that's what I think I'm always marking on my calendar when I can donate again. All right. Well, so I've done the whole blood donation, and you've done platelets?
Yes, I've been a platelet donor for 15 years and usually donate about once a month. Platelets are transfused to treat patients with cancer, leukemia, open heart surgery, organ transplants, and other blood disorders, including aplastic anemia. For cancer patients, treatment is important because the radiation and chemotherapy used to kill the cancer cells destroys the ability of the body to make platelets.
Okay. Well, so we've talked about why platelets are important. Why don't you tell us about the platelet donation process and the machine?
Okay. I'll just comment that the platelets do initiate the clotting and other factors come in. But so if you're going to donate after initial screening, say you just walk in, initial screening to see if you're healthy enough to donate, you lie down on a warm contour couch with a book to read, or you can watch TV, either network or DVD that you might have selected, or use your wireless internet. Of course, everything, you have just one hand there. A fresh collection packet has been installed in the machine. This contains everything needed for the process and is discarded later, so there's no problem with contamination. A needle is placed in your arm. A technician collects a sample of blood before the process starts, and afterwards the machine injects a saline solution with an anticoagulant into your body and then withdraws a measured amount of blood, removes the platelets from that, puts the blood back into your body, removes some more, and the process is continued until the sufficient amount of platelets have been collected.
So you mentioned maybe getting a book. I assume this therefore takes a little longer than donating whole blood. Approximately what time?
Yes. Yes. It takes about an hour compared to the 10 minutes for blood donation. And when all of this is collected, you can go and sit down and have a cup of coffee, juice, and hot cocoa and cookies. They really treat you quite nicely there.
Well, I always indulge in the cookies and the orange juice myself. So, this needle, they're taking blood in and out from that. Is this something that's pretty big and nasty? Does it hurt?
Well, Forrest, I don't usually go around sticking needles in my arm to make me feel good. But I think whatever discomfort I feel is quite small compared with the discomfort of the desperate patients who will receive my platelets. It's a humanist thing to do.
It's a humanist thing to do.
And usually at least one of the technicians there is a paramedic or has paramedic training, so that if emergency arises, they can handle it.
So it's a safe thing to do as well. All right. So how does one become a platelet donor?
Well, Medic has these apheresis machines at their Ayler Avenue office and a site on Kingston Pike in Farragut between on Kingston Pike between Lovell and Campbell Station Roads. They don't have these machines on the bloodmobiles or remote sites. You may have to call Medic at 865-524-3074 to make an appointment. If you're already a blood donor, you can talk with Susan Hubbard at the number I just gave you. She's the conversion person to convert whole blood donors to platelets.
All right, a new sect or a new cult of blood donors.
Okay.
All right. Well, it sounds like, why don't you stay here with me, Jonas, because Larry's fielding another call. We are talking today about deconversion stories, about people who have left religion. As I said earlier, I grew up faithless. What's your story, Jonas?
When I was about 15 or 16 years old, a friend introduced me to a book called Some Mistakes of Moses.
Some Mistakes of Moses.
Ingersoll's book, and I was really fascinated by that, and that was a turning point in my life. I did become associated with the Unitarian Universalist Church, which has a broad spectrum of beliefs, and tolerable, but after 40 years, it kind of, grew on. So eventually,
you were looking for something a little bit less supernatural, even than the Unitarians.
Yeah, I have had to come out of the closet.
All right. Well, Jonas, we got a call here. Why don't you greet them?
Hello, welcome to Freethought Forum. Could we have your name or a nickname, please, by which we may refer to you?
Hi, this is Ken.
Hello, Ken. Do you have a short comment or question for us? We've got about 7 minutes left in the show.
I'll try and be brief. I feel a little guilty about interrupting the other guy there. But my story is this. I was raised fundamentalist. I went to Bible school for 2 years to enter into the ministry. Became disillusioned at the tricks and techniques for manipulating emotions that I was taught. I was never able to really crystallize what I was feeling until I went into McKay's one day and saw there on the editor's pick shelf there by the door a Sam Harris book, The End of Faith. And he was able to crystallize and help me articulate what I'd been feeling for so many years. And I used to be basically depressed all the time trying to live up to a moral code. Now that I try and live under an ethical code, I think my life is so much better and quite a bit happier and full of joy. Thank you.
Hey, please don't go, Ken.
Okay.
May we ask, have you watched us before?
Oh, yeah. I've called in quite a few times.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you for doing that. And I must say, I liked your point about a moral code versus an ethical code. That's an interesting distinction to talk about. When you say ethics or an ethical code, could you try and define that word just a little more?
Well, the basic concept for me, again, this is Sam Harris's words, is being concerned with how your actions affect the happiness and or suffering of others, rather than trying to live up to a series of laws dictated, 2,500 years ago that don't apply to today's society.
In other words, it's more important to be good to our fellow humans than to worry about hurting the feelings of an imaginary sky daddy.
Exactly.
All right. Jonas, did you have anything more for Ken?
I was just thinking about our membership, our RET membership, and one of our members is an ex-minister, and he said that he really liked, he got into the more liberal viewpoint through the ethical culture societies. And so there are a number of those around the country, and but nothing like that around here.
All right, so.
Well, I'll look it up online. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Bye.
Bye then. All right. Well, we got about 5 minutes left here. We were talking about, well, what were we talking about? I think we finished our blood drive here. Well, had we said that straight away, we'd like to ask members of the ASK or RET or people who are free thinkers to donate at the Medic Blood Centers or the mobile donation vehicles that go around. You can go to their website, which I guess is I guess we don't have their website on screen, but it's real easy to Google Regional Blood Center and find locations for the blood mobiles. They're always traveling around. And when you do donate, please ask them to credit the account, so to speak, of the ASK and RET. And we hope that we'll be making a difference for people here in our community. All right, well, we've got just a few minutes to go. I don't think we got time enough to change you out. We've been talking about the resources for leaving faith here. And I know that an important group of people who may leave faith that are kind of surprising are ministers. You talked about people you met at the Unitarian, and we want to talk about Dan Barker and Daniel Dennett. They have a program for ministers who are caught in the horrible position of no longer having faith, and yet they've got a profession and a paycheck that depends on them continuing to minister. So when you mentioned the minister from the Ethical Society, it sounded like he was trying to find a way to be as liberal as he could. Did he ever talk to you about that?
Well, yeah, he did praise the ethical culture people very highly. But the group of ministers that you were referring to is the Clergy Project.
The Clergy Project. Thank you for remembering that.
Yes, this you can look this up on the internet, and it has the stories of a number of ministers and interviews with some of them who, at some point lost or changed their faith, and it's very interesting.
And Dan Barker, who is the head of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, he is one of those ministers, and he has a very marvelous story. It's in his book. He's holding it in his hands here in this photograph called Losing Faith in Faith, and I really recommend that. It's a marvelous story from my point of view about how someone deals with this problem in their life, that they realize their whole life was built around something that they could no longer believe.
Well, we had a call just the other day from a fellow named Tom who is I guess a retired minister. He suffered a couple of strokes and could no longer continue. It wasn't so much that he lost his faith, but rather he lost faith in the way religions, different denominations disparage each other and fight each other.
Religion certainly can be a way that we define ourselves as being different from others, whereas humanism is how we define ourselves as being connected with others. Well, why don't you help me work here through the closing program? It's time to start wrapping up. This has been...
Okay. This has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee.
Please send us feedback or leave us voicemail at 865-272-9060 or freethoughtforum@yahoo.com.
Okay, and you can see this show most Tuesdays from 5 to 6 on this station and online at ctvknox.org.
All right, we want to thank Sam and Jonas and Larry for handling the phone calls